Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Valero community meeting and open discussion. Today is March 9th, 2021. Per usual, we're going to kick off with some status updates and then dive into discussion topics. I know Nolan is going to go over some of the roadmap updates again. So let's do this. Nolan, you're up first.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of progress on code items towards the roadmap. So most of what I've been looking at this week is down in the discussion topics, the roadmap, and looking at a Valero vision. So we can talk about that when we get to discussion topics.
Sounds good. Any questions or comments for Nolan? All right, Bridget.
Hi, everyone. So I had a bit of an interrupted week last week, had to take some unexpected PTO. But during last week, most of the PRs I had for the multiple credential support were reviewed and merged. So thank you very much to everyone who reviewed those. The support for multiple credentials for Restic is now ready for review because it was blocked on one of those previous PRs. So that's ready to review, and I'm currently working on an ET test is running. I think it has just passed, so I will open up a PR for that once I'm sure that it all works as intended. And then that's it. Yeah, I think so. I need to do some other reviews as well, but I'll try and catch up on those this afternoon and tomorrow. So that's it for me.
Sounds good. The BSL and the plugin PR for multiple credentials, that's been a long outstanding thing, right?
Yes. So yes, those were things that have been open for a while. And yes, so they're now reviewed and merged. So that's thank you to everyone who gave good feedback on those and got that merged. So I'm kind of glad that those are in now.
That's great to see. Yeah, because I know you've been talking about those and they've been blocking other things as well. So this is super nice to see.
Yeah. Thanks
Awesome.
very much, everyone.
Any questions, comments for Bridget? All right, Carlisia.
I was on community support last week and did PR reviews for some of the release blockers. And this week I'm doing more PR reviews, but frankly, I want to focus on reviewing the upload progress design documents. And I also have to circle back to this support issue. There's another issue related to this. It seems like it might be something we have to do something about. And they've helped us understand what this is, but I do have to read through it again and figure out what to say and what to do. What else? So yeah, and the upload progress, that signed documents. And just trying to get myself out of meetings.
Meetings take up so much time. So this is the upload progress monitoring design you're talking about?
Yeah.
Cool. This is the outcome of the discussion that you folks had. Was that a few weeks ago?
Yeah, we did have a meeting, a discussion about this, and there is a link to that meeting. I have it if anybody wants it.
Jonas uploaded it to YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah,
Well,
I have the yeah.
Awesome. Any questions, comments for Carlisia? All right, Dave.
Yeah, so let's see. So inside baseball stuff, just vSphere things. We're looking at support for the various flavors of Tanzu on WCP. So we're working on getting additional support for that. And I went ahead and updated the roadmap with the stuff for 1.7. So it looks like that's been merged, but it's still open for change. So if people have suggestions or comments, that's quite welcome at this point. It looks like Nolan's going to go over that later. And then this week I'm on community support. Yay me.
Nice. Any questions, comments for Dave? Okay, Ashish.
So last week I was plumbing our E2E tests to be like run regularly in as part of our internal release pipelines. So, and I noticed that our E2E tests are slightly flaky. So I opened up an issue for us to address that. And I also have put up a PR that addresses one issue that I saw, and I believe Frankie is working on another one. I don't think she's on the call today. So I was doing that. Then I was also doing Restic upgrades that we have for our release. As folks may know, Restic released a newer version of their software, version 0.12.0. So we wanted to take advantage of it for a few reasons, one of them being security compliance. So I did that. I was verifying that we have backwards compatibility, like you can restore a backup that you've taken with 0.96, which was the older version of Restic that we were using, and restore using the newer version of Restic. So I have that all documented in that PR if folks want to take a look and sign off or add comments.
Sounds good. Any questions, comments for Ashish?
So Jonas, if you just scroll down on that PR, I have screen captures of the screen captures confirming that this upgrade works. If other people are interested in looking at it.
Question for you, Ashish. How do you capture these GIFs?
So there's a tool called ASCII Anima. So you capture that as a cast and convert that into a GIF.
Nice. I used that years and years ago. I wasn't sure it was still a thing. Nice.
I use a tool called Annotate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I use for screenshots. So handy, and they do video too, so you can do that.
Nice.
And Nolan pasted a link to the tool that I used.
In Zoom chat, yeah.
Yeah, in Zoom chat.
Yeah. I had something like 5432 or something like that. Nice. All right. Any questions, comments for Ashish? Okay, let's dive into
we are down to 3 release blocking PRs. One is the Restic upgrade, the other is the E2E tests, and the other is Bridget's PR 3489, I suppose.
Yeah, we're going to look at that in a second.
Okay.
Yep, let's go into them, Nolan.
Actually, before we dive into those, we have Eleanor on the call, who I don't know, Eleanor, if you want to introduce yourself, you're welcome to. If not, we can wait until next week.
Sure, I can do a quick introduction now. I'm Eleanor Millman. I'm currently a PM in VMware in a different part in Tanzu VMware Tanzu Labs. But starting on Monday, I will start PMing Valero, so you'll see me a lot more. So I look forward to diving in and learning what I need to know to contribute to the team.
Welcome, Eleanor.
Thank you. Apologies for eating at this meeting. I'm in Eastern time, so it's my lunchtime.
No worries at all. All right,
Welcome aboard,
Nolan.
Eleanor. Yep. And so if we take a look at that board, I'm waiting for the screen share to populate. There we go. So I see 2 of these listed as release blockers. Ashish, you said another might be a release blocker. If we can get that tagged, we can view it on the board.
Yep, I was going to add the E2E tests as release blocker.
Okay, cool. So it looks like we're getting pretty close. My hope is we can get these in and start doing a test on it, having people try out an RC or beta version. So I'm looking to the rest of the developers. Do we think we can get these items reviewed and done by the end of the week?
Yeah, I will have only one PR to review, so I can get to it.
Cool. So yeah, I think once we get these reviewed and running them through our testing, we can look to getting a release within the next couple weeks or so. So that's exciting. Yeah, Jonas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just one question here. Who wants to sign up to do the release blog?
Yeah, who wants to?
See a lot of hands going up. I love it.
Yeah. I am perfectly willing to do it if no one else wants to.
I'm happy to pair with someone. Obviously, I can't do it on my own, but I'd love to, as long as it's Monday or later, I'd love to see how the process works.
I was going to volunteer you, Eleanor. It's a great exercise.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Is this the blog post that I volunteered for? No, I think I did. Never mind.
You might have done
160.
that, yes,
oh, 160. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the 160. Yes, it will be after Monday. So Ashish and Eleanor, if you would like to pair on it, awesome.
Yeah.
Bridget, I saw you.
Bridget wanted to do it.
I haven't done a release blog post yet. So I was also hoping that I could have some input. I don't know, maybe we could all work together and come up with some ideas, but I'm happy to do the actual typing.
Bridget,
she did the last one.
Bridget, I'll let you drive. I will consult. You can consult with me if you want.
Yeah,
awesome. That'd be great.
We'll
Thank you.
review it. So
yeah, cool.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bridget.
No problem. Thanks.
And thank you, Eleanor and Ashish and everyone. So all of the hands went up all of a sudden. I love it. Yeah. So Bridget, you're on point. Thank you. I'll work with you and make sure that that gets out. Sweet.
Cool. So yeah, I suppose we can add a GitHub issue for tracking that. I don't know that it will. I'm sure our process has usually been to do it in Google Docs first, just because it's a lot easier to do it, to collaborate on that sometimes and leave comments. But yeah, so the 2 items that are already on the board, the E2E tests, we'll get a release blocker tag on, and the blog post issue.
Already tagged.
Already tagged it. Awesome. Thanks. All right. Are there any questions on questions or comments on 1.6? Otherwise, we can move on to talking about what 1.7 will be. Okay. Cool. So Dave linked it above, and I've linked it here. We have the Valero Roadmap for 1.7 defined. We're looking at a bunch of stuff here. The core things that we really want to get done are making sure that Velero installs well with Carvel, which is a suite of tools for managing deployments that VMware also open sources. We are looking to define a more complete test plan for Velero. So not just sets of end-to-end tests, but like parameters, matrix of supported versions across all the different things, which include like hard definitions of Kubernetes versions, vSphere versions, all that kind of stuff, all that fun stuff, 4-dimensional graphs. Eventually getting scale testing in there, I'm sure. But to start with, I think we need the version tests. This next one is kind of like an observability issue. We've wanted a Velero debug command for a while to help people kind of see what's going on in their clusters. Like in a specific example is getting data for Restic is kind of annoying. And we partnered up with the Crash Diagnostics team here at VMware. And Crash Diagnostics is a tool that lets you use the Starlark Python dialect to define things you want to fetch out of your cluster. So this is used with like CAPI clusters to get logs for all the the management and workload clusters. But we can also, if you scroll down to the bottom on this, Jonas, yeah, here we go. We have the ability to, for Velero, grab local commands. So stuff like the Velero logs, we actually have to run a local command, Velero backup logs, and the backup name, for example. So the idea that we're currently batting around for this is to include Crash Diagnostics as a library inside of Velero, and then our Crash Diagnostic scripts will be bundled into the Velero binary. So Go 116 includes provisions for doing that, for dumping bits into your binary, kind of like I believe it's bin data was the older library that did it. So I envision we get the Velero debug support through including Crash Diagnostics, but we'll produce a design document talking exactly about that. Let's see, the next item. I'm going to pull up the roadmap here locally. The next item is getting CSI snapshots to GA. So CSI snapshots, I believe, GA'd in 120 on Kubernetes. It's not fully implemented across all drivers yet for things like AWS, Azure, GCP. But we want to start doing more testing on that and make sure Valero's support is GA, so that as folks start transitioning the clusters from the built-in drivers, they can start transitioning to the CSI drivers and have full Velero support. So we're gonna try to polish this up, and we have a CSI GA tag out there for our label for different things. So we will be grabbing those and putting those into an implementation plan. And then the last thing in our core, nope, 2 more items in our core plan. Support for Velero plugin versioning. That is a big issue for unblocking a bunch of other work like plugin timeouts and adding waiting for other additional items. So we want to get plugin versioning implemented in 1.7, designed and implemented. I think Vong has signed up to help with this, which is awesome. And then the final core item is ensuring our IPv6 support works well. To be transparent, this was a request from the Tanzu program here at VMware. We're trying to make sure everything in our portfolio actually works well with IPv6. So those are the things our team really wants to get in. I'm going to detail a little bit more about this upcoming release process and schedule that we're going to implement, but looking for comments on that now. Okay, cool. I'm not going to go over all the desired items. Well,
I actually have a question, Nolan.
Okay.
I see on the desired items, there's the upload progress monitoring. Is that the design nailed or the implementation, or both, or what?
I'd like to get the implementation in. We should be able to finish up the design in the next couple of weeks, but we have to sketch out, what needs to be done to actually implement it. And we really have to get scoping for the core items for how much time those are going to take. And then we can see what else we can fit in.
Should we add the design to the 1.6 core items?
No.
No?
1.6 or 1.7?
I'm sorry,
1.6 is closed.
No, 1.7.
I think we're good with where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah. Plugin and some of these other things, plugin timeouts is going to be blocked on plugin versioning, so we have to get that done first. Getting to distro-less containers as a base, I think will be a smaller amount of work, but that will be really helpful for us to give fewer false positives on security scans. We're going to design multiple cluster support, but I think that's going to be a long-running item that will span multiple releases. And my hope is we can finish the design for a manifest on backup, building out the data structure, not necessarily instrumenting anything for it yet. So that's what we're looking for. That's what our team is looking to do in 1.7. We want to open up a period where folks can submit designs to get into the milestone, but the main ask there is if you submit a design, you commit to implementing it. And Jonas, you were raising your hand.
Yeah, just looking at the distro-less containers as a base, is that something that you would like the community contributors to dive into?
Yeah, if someone wants to.
Well, actually, I have that working. What we really need to do is test it in all the configurations. So it's really dependent on I want to make sure all the plugins work, for example, with, making sure we get the right libraries in place for them. So we're going to get the ETE test running with volume snapshotting, then we'll run my branch through that. It's like a 3-line change to actually put it in.
Yeah, I think if we get it in and allow people to test off of like a latest image in their environment, that would be helpful. The earlier we can get signal on that, the better.
All right.
Okay, if there's no more questions on this roadmap, I'm sure we'll talk about this again next week. I also have some other stuff to talk about with regards to roadmaps and things like that. So if we look at the community agenda, I have a couple documents and PRs that are put out there. Let's see. Yeah, could you switch back to the community notes, Jonas?
I am there.
Okay, thank you.
I
think my my screen share might be delayed. So in terms of actually getting the roadmap implemented, we're looking at moving to date-based releases so that we say this is the release date, and we will ship what's included at that time. That includes us and community contributions. We've talked a little bit about maybe getting closer to Kubernetes release dates. And for those who are unaware, the Kubernetes release dates moved to a 3 times a year cadence in 2020 to be a little bit more sustainable. I'm curious what folks think about a 3-month versus a 4-month cadence. So I'll open it up if anyone has comments on that.
I think matching the Kubernetes release cadence would be beneficial. Because one, why not? And two, it is one reference that everybody can have in their minds. Oh, when is the next release? So if they don't remember what we documented, they can just think, oh, I know the Kubernetes release, so it's the same.
Well,
Yes,
I want to be caught. I don't want to say we will release the same day, but close.
Yeah,
my
definitely
ideal. Yeah, my ideal would be we're running our tests against all these released versions of Kubernetes and also whatever's in main on Kubernetes. So we have early signal to say, hey, there's breaking changes coming. But getting to, you know, within a week, 2 weeks of Kubernetes releases would be awesome.
Same month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't know if that will make us like feel like little less supporting older versions than it'll add one more to the newer version that we may not have tested things against. So I think that should be fine.
Yeah, I'm just looking at timeframes right now. Like I'm not necessarily looking for this question. I'm not looking at the support matrix, but for right now, I think my personal input is a 4-month cadence is nice because it gives us a little bit more breathing room on getting these things done. But I also want to stress we need to move to date-based releases because I don't think anyone feels good about where we're at with the 1.6 release. We said it would be done in January. And we were operating in a, well, we'll get everything done and then release it. But I kind of want to turn that on its head to get people bug fixes faster and help the team ship and get people's designs out there. So I created this is a very, very bare bones skeleton on a release schedule document that's pull request 3551. And this doesn't define any like hard timeframes or anything, but borrowing from the Kubernetes release, if you take a look at this and comment on it, let us know what you think. But from a very high level, we're looking at doing an enhancement or design freeze. So propose what you would like to get in, and then we have a period where there's a cutoff. If it doesn't get in at this point, then we're not going to implement it. Then we have implementation. We will have a feature freeze and pruning of the backlog to say, okay, these things are done. Anything else gets moved to a patch release or the next major, depending on how involved it is or what it is. And then we do code freeze for just bug fixes and doing pre-releases and then finally release. So this is very high level, but I wanted to write this down and get this in front of people to help keep us accountable to it. And we can work on exact timeframes and dates. But this helps make us more transparent, helps give us more accountability for getting it done. And hopefully this will keep things moving and let people know when they can expect something they want to bring to the table to get in.
Maybe one thing we could do to make it easier is to have like a master schedule. For example, code freeze in pre-release is release T-2 weeks, and then go backwards from that. And then we can just set those dates. Like we just have to nail the release date, and then all the other dates we don't have. We just be figured out automatically.
Yep. And those will probably be open to a little bit of tweaking, but for now I wanted to get something out there that people can like talk about. So yep. So yeah, if you have comments on this, well, let me open it for comments now, but also this PR is going to be open for comments.
I have a question, but feel free to defer it if I just don't have the context. Of course, I understand why you need a code freeze towards the end. Is there a reason that you have to define a design freeze before implementation starts, or could design perhaps go at the same time as implementation? I mean, not of the same feature, obviously, but is there, could you cycle through design and implementation on several features?
I think so, but I think the design cutoff is, these are the designs that will get implemented in this release. And I think if a design goes past that date, then it will be for the next release. So you can certainly design a feature that may end up in the release +1. But what I'm trying to do with this is to get a defined payload. So these are the things we expect to actually get in this release, and then iterate on those. But then any design work that could be ongoing, like people can work on something that might be in 1.8. We just have communicated, you need to get it in by that freeze date. This is something Kubernetes does as well. They have their Kubernetes enhancement proposals, or KEPs. And if your KEP is not ready by the cutoff, if it's not accepted, then it gets the boot and you have to wait. And this is just to help keep momentum and not tie things up. I'm open for revising it in the future, but I think like 1.6, we had a little bit of a delay. Well, we had a lot of delay on multiple credentials design. And so I'm looking to prevent that and just give ourselves a deadline earlier than the release date.
Just a quick comment on that. I think the concern also was that the way this is written, it looks like the design freeze happens before we start implementation. And I think there's really realistically overlap there.
Oh, that's fair.
Okay, that
I
probably
don't,
answers, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't envision this to be like waterfall, but to say, okay, we're comfortable enough with this design to start implementing, and questions that come up during implementation, of course, that needs to be addressed, and something may slip. I don't want it to go full waterfall, but mostly consensus on what, at a high level, what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, so I think part of this is to get some predictability around the roadmap, so that we get the roadmap for the major features. Little features we can slip in until fairly late in the process, but I don't want to have like re-architecture, like a pull request with a big architectural change popping up late in the cycle. That'll get deferred to the next release. So we want to enable our community to make, to propose big changes. So we want to have a predictable way for everybody to see where they fit in this.
That all makes sense.
Yeah,
sorry, I was just gonna say that all makes sense. Sorry, you go.
Well, I think we're trying to achieve many goals. One is being productive. One is being, committing, being reliable. And I think having a freeze date for the design, even though, it's not going to be, we're not intending to do a waterfall process, but it really helps us to focus on what design documents are there that we need to be reviewing for the release, and which design documents are there that we can queue up for later. For example, one of the reasons why I think that the credentials got delayed was because we weren't focusing on it, we weren't prioritizing, we didn't get ourselves to separate what is for this release and what is not, so we can not only just exclusively focus on what's for the release, but also just to prioritize things that are not lined up for the whatever's coming next.
Yeah, and the other thing is for big features, right? We want to be able to break ourselves into doing, iterations, like 2-week iterations. But what we need to do up front is get at least the big picture t-shirt sizing of how much work, what pieces, parts need to get done, how much work is involved with that. Is that going to fit into this release? So that's one of the reasons to push this design phase for big features up front. And we may add things in later. It's not a cast in stone process, but I think the idea here is to get us the ability to execute on large features and nail those down early on in the cycle, so that we know how much work they're going to be.
Oh, that makes sense. And I like how you're learning from the previous release, trying something on this release, and perhaps iterating on a future release. That makes sense. Thank you.
I'll also just say I linked the Kubernetes release process document here. Kubernetes is a much bigger project, and they have stuff like you can get an exception in for your KEP. I don't think we need to do that right now. I think we can be loose. I think we can, and adapt. But I want some general guidelines on this to say, okay, this is our this is where we are doing our very best, and if this thing is hugely valuable, maybe it gets an extra week or something. But I just want to make sure we're clear with it and say why we're doing it, and not have stuff keep pushing a release out. I really want to be able to say the release is coming out this day, and stuff didn't get in because this, but we can for sure get it in next one. And I'm sure there's going to be an addendum to this for what is getting it into a patch release look like. But I think we need to start here and iterate. But hopefully this gives everyone more predictability about when we're delivering stuff, when they can get their stuff in, all of that, and gives an explicit time that, hey, we're accepting ideas and we'll put the energy into reviewing them.
I think it makes a lot of sense. This, I like.
And we talked about some of this late last year, but we didn't put like a document out like this to really agree on. So I want the document out there, and then like Carlisia said, we'll basically have relative timelines to say, you know, work backwards from the release date, and these are the windows roughly, you know, and things will happen like end of year shutdowns or holidays, but give something, some kind of insight. So if we don't have any more on that, I'm going to move to the next one, which is much higher level. So internally, we're working on a Valero vision for the future. Internally, this is very focused on where it fits into the products, because Valero is a VMware originated project. But we are looking at doing things like splitting out components of Valero, like the serialization. These right here are a very rough draft of vision statements or things we want to accomplish. Maybe not vision statements, but goals. We want to enable partners. We've got people from Red Hat on the call. We've got people from Dell on the call. We want to make Valero a better engine for you to get your work done. And we also want to deliver core features ourselves. So I'd invite people to take a look at these and leave comments on the HackMD. We're going to move towards a more crisp and actually published version of this to let people know where we're going. But I wanted to get these out there and say, these are the kinds of ideas we're thinking about. These are the things that are important to us, and see what people think of that. So I'm not going to read these for you, but if anyone has comments here, floor's open.
I think the bottom three are great. I'm a little curious what you're thinking about as a core component of Kubernetes.
Yeah, so the goal there would be to say our long-term goal, you know, if we could have everything we wanted, Valero would be running in every Kubernetes cluster, and that's not necessarily Valero as it is today. We're, for an example, we're envisioning splitting Valero into like a serialization engine, which is the thing that will capture all the snapshots. It will capture all the Kubernetes YAML, and that part could be everywhere. And then having a layer that is policy, scheduling, dashboard kind of stuff which would be swappable. So I could see a future where that serialization part we donate to the CNCF and could be iterated on by the community, and then other data protection tools, Conveyor, Kasten even, could use it, and it becomes a common layer.
That's a good question. And I wonder if it makes sense in this context to think about maybe even decoupling some of this from the Velero server pod, something
Yep.
along the lines of, kubectl backup, kubectl restore kind of thing, where you run that kind of stuff, not as a running server pod, even as kind of one-off sort of operations.
I'm curious to hear more about that, but I know Dave has some designs that we need to get public. So
yeah, I don't have a whole lot on that. I'm just one of the things that we
Sure.
were thinking about is even talking about maybe decoupling some of this from having to have a running server kind of all the time for occasional use even. Obviously, if it's your backup solution that you're running scheduled backups, you still need the server. But for kind of one-off use of back up this namespace here, restore it there, it might be interesting to be able to run some of this client side.
Yeah, I think
Maybe,
what we
yeah.
want to do is look more towards putting like snapshotty type APIs into the various components. So like, we have the example here in CSI volume snapshot. So we can write a CR to say snapshot this volume, and the CSI driver takes care of it. I'd like to see us going in a similar direction for operator-driven applications and even the Kubernetes API server, so that we can eventually say something like snapshot this Kubernetes cluster, and it goes and triggers, CSI snapshots, volume snapshot, or application snapshots, tars up all of the resources together and puts it someplace that we can access as a snapshot. So that you could say kubectl snapshot this cluster or this namespace, and then you could, copy that snapshot someplace else or restore from that snapshot. So that's kind of where I see us going. So we'll break out. I don't think we're going to pull the code into something that just runs client side, because ultimately we'd like to have the API server actually be involved so that we can get things like consistent backups of Kubernetes resources, so that the API server actually does a proper snapshot of itself.
Yeah, and this would give clean extension points to Velero, and like storage application vendors don't have to implement Velero plugins for their application running in Kubernetes to be backed up. If they already have a way to back their application up, all Velero has to do is like identify those CRs and like trigger the backups for the data storage applications.
I think we could take some of this language and tighten it up, or not tighten it up, but expand. So I'll think about that. Yeah, I can kind of see your use case, Scott. So we haven't been discussing it in that manner, but maybe there's something else that can be added on to.
Sure.
Cool. So if there aren't other questions or comments on this, I linked this HackMD from the community meeting notes. If you'd like, please leave a comment on it. And that's all I have. So if people don't have any other questions, I guess we can open it up for more discussion topics.
Yeah. Does anyone have any discussion topics that they would like to cover today? Going once. Going twice. Banging the gavel. No discussion topics. All right. We got some contributor shout out PRs though.
Yeah. These were all Genting, who is our external maintainer. he was adding himself to the rest of the repositories for maintainership, something we forgot to do. So thank you, Genting. Aside from that, he updated some documentation. I believe it was documentation around Helm V2 deprecation. So Helm V2 was deprecated last year, and please upgrade if you can. But the Velero chart, we're trying to focus on Helm V3 from our current standpoint. I think the other one is just adding, I think this was re-adding Genting to the chart maintainers.
I don't think he was never added.
Oh, again, so
My
more
bad.
fixing. Sorry. Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, the other merging has been kind of slowing down as we approach the release close, but I want that to pick back up soon. And then we have a new part of the contributor shoutouts, which Carlisia will take.
Yeah, I'm going to be listing the shout outs for people who add answers to our Q&A section. And there is a link. That title has a link to that page on GitHub. Today, I'm only dumping a screenshot of the most helpful answers. I went through like all the answers on the first page, and it was mostly all of us. But going forward, I want to be listing answers from like individual shout outs for individual answer contributions. But we didn't have anybody from outside of us, the maintainers, anyway. But hopefully people be more aware. And Dave has been so great about answering. And I love going through the answers, and I actually learned a bunch.
Yeah, we have Frankie. A huge shout out to Frankie for diving in there.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes,
but I
yes.
also thank Carlisia for making me feel like I'm one of you.
Yeah, well, you're on the board, on the leaderboards.
One of us. It was great to see Carlisia. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, so just to be clear, this is for everybody to jump in and answer. Anyone, people just mark as the right answer if you get it right. And it counts as a GitHub contribution, so you'll show in your little chart.
Ah, yeah, the discussions count as a contribution as well. I like that.
If your answer was marked as the right answer, yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it. Does anyone have anything else they want to add to the meeting today?
I will be out next Tuesday, so I'll have somebody else do the PR shout outs, but do not hold up discussions on me.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
I can do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlisia. All right. With that, thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of the week, and see you all next week. Bye.
Bye, folks.